Okay, I'm going to talk you through Out of the Bag by Seamus Heaney. It's one of your contemporary poems out of the textbook Poems of the Decade. Seamus Heaney was a very famous and respected Irish poet. His themes tend to be about family and nature. Especially this, Out of the Bag, has very strong themes of family and birth. Poems which you could find connections to or comparisons are material and inheritance, insofar as there's a link between mothers and their children. And on another level, you could take it with To My 9-Year-Old Self, as there are themes of childhood and memory in each one. And The Lammas Hireling, as they both have quite magical tones and language and ideas. And in contrast, Out of the Bag is very much about birth and bringing life into the world, while The Lammas Hireling is very much about murder. You might also find common themes with genetics and You, Shiva and My Mum, although they may be a little bit more tenuous than others. So Out of the Bag, Seamus Heaney. This basically describes his view as a child of the doctor who came and delivered his siblings and himself as well, and the charming idea that he and all his brothers and sisters came out of the doctor's bag. So, part one. All of us came in Dr. Curlin's bag. He'd arrive with it, disappear into the room, and by the time he'd reappear to wash those nosy, rosy, big, soft hands of his in the scullery basin, its lined insides, the colour of a spaniel's inside lug, were empty for all to see, the trap-sprung mouth unsnibbed and gaping wide. So you've got some nice rhymes there with the nosy rosy, and if we continue thinking about the character of the doctor as a very life-giving force, as the theme develops in the poem, you'll see his description continues to develop in that way. The scullery basin, a scullery is a very old-fashioned add-on to a kitchen where the washing was done and a lot of the work that might be considered less clean than where food preparation would happen. So it's dating the poem quite a long time ago. The links to the spaniel, there's a couple of references there, and this is quite important because the colour of a spaniel's inside lug and his collar is spaniel coloured. Spaniels are used to hunt water birds. They swim after and fetch these birds, and the doctor is linked to the image of water repeatedly throughout the poem. He drinks the water, he washes in the water, and there's lots of descriptions. And water is usually quite symbolic of being a life-giving force. Then, like a hypnotist, the simile here, then like a hypnotist unwinding us, giving an idea of him to be something of a magician or able to cast spells, and suggesting that he is very interesting and hypnotic, and that he can really attract the attention of these little children. He'd wind the instruments back into their lining, tie the cloth like an apron round itself, darken the door and leave, with the bag in his hand, a plump ark by the keel. This here, a plump ark by the keel, is very metaphorical. Now, an ark is a boat or a ship, and the keel is the central part, and it's like a very long, thick add-on to the ship that is underneath it, and you wouldn't see it at all. on the surface, but it's the thing that keeps the ship afloat and able to steer. So it's vital for the survival in that way. So describing him as this sort of majestic boat that's moving along is, I think, one of the effects of that metaphor. Until the next time came, and in he'd come in his fur-lined collar that was also spaniel-coloured, and go stooping up to the room again, a whiff of disinfectant. The verb stooping, I think, is quite interesting because it's similar to, or would present an idea of striding or stepping, but stooping gives to me the idea that he's a very large man and that he has to duck a little as he's going under the doorway to get into the room to birth the baby. And then you've got your sense of smell, a whiff of disinfectant, so very, very hygienic and clean. A Dutch interior gleam, which I think means very sort of traditional bare wood and stone. A Dutch interior gleam of waistcoat satin and highlights on the forceps. So this is just a quick image, a visual image he can remember from watching the doctor go into birth one of his baby brothers or sisters. The satin waistcoat has a sense of luxury and beauty about it. Highlights on the forceps. Forceps are metallic instruments that are used to, they usually clasp onto the baby's head and help pull them out of the mum. And they are quite a often used doctor's tool. But they would appear quite shiny, or light might shine from them. Getting the water ready, that was next. So we're getting into a structure of the poem which is chronological, of remembering the doctor coming and then everything that happened after that. Getting the water ready, that was next. Not plumping hot, and not lukewarm, but soft, suddelicious. Saved for him from the rain but, and savoured by him afterwards. Those nice plumping hot, not lukewarm but soft, are very gentle sorts of adjectives and phrases to describe this water, giving us a very maternal and gentle sort of feel. And suddelicious, that name, that phrase is quite childlike, or from the imagination of a child as well. A rain butt is and was, it could be just a bucket or some sort of receptacle kept outside to catch rainwater. So it's another symbol of very traditional, not poverty-stricken, but certainly not materially wealthy way of life. And savoured by him afterwards. That verb savoured is giving a sense of very much enjoyed and respected, and that he feels gratitude for having a lovely suddy water to wash with. All thanks denied as he towelled hard and fast.